Hey guys, what's up? Yeah, just here taking a look at all the new level 100 talents. Looking at Mage right now. This is all on Wowhead, by the way, wowhead.com, for those of you who haven't taken a look yet and want to do some of your own research. I'm just going to give a quick rundown of all the classes and my opinions on the level 100. As you can see, for example, in this one it says only 1,000 arcane damage or 2,000 fire damage. A lot of you are probably wondering, like, wow, that doesn't seem like anything. They're not even gonna be worth picking. But in Warlords they are doing a stat crunch, meaning all gear, all damage, all health pulls, everything is going to be scaled down to whatever they feel like doing. Nobody really knows yet, but we're going to see a lot lower numbers. And from my understanding, they're going to make it between, you either have to pick between being a glass cannon or you can survive and do mediocre damage. So it should be interesting. But here's the mages. Prolonged exposure is one of them. For arcane missiles extend arcane power by 2 seconds. Fire, just Pyro Blast, Fireball, Inferno Blast, Critical Strikes extend combustion by a second. And Ice Lance extends your Icy Veins, which is the 30% haste for mages, by 2 seconds per each. Focusing Crystal, I thought this one was pretty cool. It's basically put a target dummy in the middle of a group of enemies and pop all your cooldowns and do as much damage into it as you can for 10 seconds, and it converts that damage to 130% of what it took and AoEs everybody within 8 yards over 6 seconds. So it basically turns all your single target damage into AoE dots. Falling Stars, it basically gives every class a AoE according to whatever spec you are. Arcane, it basically shoots a laser type of deal across the map, dealing 1,000 arcane damage to every enemy it hits, and grants you arcane charges. Meteor, for fire, 1,000 damage, 8 yards, burns to the ground, doing around 2,000 damage over 10 seconds. So basically a flame strike, but a greater version of it. And Frost, it calls down a series of comets, doing split damage to all enemies within 5 yards of where you call it down. For DKs, Necrotic Plague. This is basically just going to give DKs some more OP dots. No big deal. I mean, it's not like they don't already have it, right? But a powerful disease that deals 100 damage per stack every 3 seconds for 30 seconds, and it's passive. Each time it deals damage, it gains 1 stack and jumps to another nearby enemy if possible. So, RBGs, DK up Lumbermill, killing everything on the team, because that's what DKs are going to do with Necrotic Plague, because undispellable diseases and this kind of damage, it's going to be rough to compete with. Defile, I personally think this talent's junk, but people who are better at DK might oppose that. But basically puts puddle on the ground, causing shadow damage every 1 second for 10 seconds. Each time it deals damage, it increases the area and the damage by 5%. This growth can occur a maximum of 3 times per second. So basically what it's saying is for 10 seconds it's going to have about a 33% uptime. And if you have it on 3 or more enemies, it'll go up by 15% for every second you have it down. Meaning, if it was doing 100 shadow damage, by the end of the 10 seconds, it would be doing about 150 shadow damage, but it would be, no, it would be doing about 300. Sorry, I calculated that wrong. But so it goes up at about 3 times and triple the area. So I mean, I could see it being alright. It's kind of hard to say, to be honest. But you got to see how it scales with whatever they do, whatever stats they put, and see where it goes from there. And then breath continuously deals shadow frost damage. It's basically like a chimera NPC breath or a hunter pet, how they have that cone, and basically just drains your runic power, and it's on a 1 minute cooldown, so it's a good runic dump. But I personally think Necrotic Plague is going to destroy everything. Might of Malorn. Balance, I could see Lunar and Solar Eclipse now lasts until the other is triggered, instead of ending at 0. So you'll always have some type of equinox or eclipse, and so that'll be a pretty decent buff damage for Feral. Savage Roar is now passive, meaning you don't have to dump your combo points anymore. You don't have to waste global cooldowns, and you don't have to worry about uptime. And Guardian, after using Enrage, the next attack against you will deal 50% less damage. That'll be good for avoiding Chaos Bolts and stuff like that. Swiftmend now consumes Regrowth or Rejuvenation but has no cooldown. That'll give Resto Druids the burst heals they've needed for quite some time now. Will of Malfurion targets all enemies within 60 yards and accelerates the caster's Moonfire and Sunfire effects, causing them to deal 400% of their normal rate for 4 seconds. That is pretty big. That's basically saying, depending on your haste obviously, Moonfire and Sunfire will destroy anybody in range, taking it 2 to 3 times a second for 4 seconds while channeled. That's pretty huge, and that's like just guaranteeing Starfire procs or Star Surge procs every time it's casted. And from what it says here, there's no cooldown, it's just channeled. So let's see how that turns out. Bloody Thrash spreads Rake, giving Feral Druids AoE, which is interesting. Malfurion's Tenacity for Guardian increases your armor by 200% of your agility. That's pretty big as well. That's going to give them even more. It's basically going to make it so you can't hit a Guardian Druid for anything unless you're a caster. And Restoration. Genesis now also extends Rejuvenation by 1 second after hastening it, which you get a couple more ticks in Rejuve, which could always be useful. And Touch of a Loon, entering Solar Eclipse, will transform your Starfall spell into Sunfall and reset its cooldown. Moonfire is now usable while in cat form, generates 1 combo point and costs 30 energy. Guardian instantly converts up to 60 rage into 5000 absorption for 15 seconds. It replaces frenzied regeneration, though. Is it worth it? And for Resto, Omen of Clarity now lasts 5 seconds instead of 1 cast, which I don't really see that being that useful, but it can be. Bullet Shot replaces Arcane Shot. It makes Arcane Shot an AoE. After 1 second explodes, doing 3000 fire damage with an additional 2000 fire damage to all enemies within 5 yards. Snipe, carefully line up the perfect shot, doing 150% weapon damage, generates 60 focused, cannot be cast while moving, and replaces SETI or Cobra Shot. Refreshes Serpent Stings for BM and Survival, and triggers Steady Focus for Marksman. With or Without You gives your BM pet a bunch of extra Cool stuff, bunch of damage, everything, whatever. Marksman and survival, they do 30% increased damage when you do not have a pet active. I personally, on my hunter, I'm going to be stuck between with or without you and bullet shot. Bullet shot seems pretty clutch, especially with thrill of the hunt, because thrill of the hunt, I'm guessing if it replaces arcane shot, you will be able to spam bullet shot almost free of charge, which that can end up being pretty outrageous. But then again, 30% extra damage on absolutely everything, that's pretty outrageous too. So we'll just have to see how outrageous hunters really are. Serene Mist, basically it renews all your chi for brewmasters. Same thing for windwalkers, and Soothing Mist is now a 3-target AoE. Chi Explosion, all kinds of really cool stuff. Damage for brewmasters and windwalkers pretty much, and that's basically all it does. And Mistweavers gives some pretty strong burst AoE heals, and Vital Connections causes your healing spheres to instantly trigger, healing the nearest ally within 6 yards. That's huge for a lot of Mistweavers because they know how nobody wants to go in their orbs. It's pretty huge. And Brewmaster just mitigates damage. Windwalker, some pretty insane damage from your kicks. Unleash the Rapid series, dealing 14,000 over 3 seconds, and we've seen some of these other abilities only do 1,000 to 2,000 every hit. So 14,000, that's some pretty strong burst. Let's see for Pally's Divine Correction. For Holy, when your Beacon of Light target drops below 30% health, you instantly grant the injured target a protective shield absorbing up to 30% of their maximum health for 10 seconds. You cannot shield the same person this way twice within 60 seconds. For Prot, probably nobody will play Prot Pally still in PvP anyways. Increases your block chance by 10%. When you block, you deal 2,000 holy damage to your attacker. Empowers your weapon with holy energy and performs a devastating strike, dealing 250% weapon damage as holy, but it costs 3 holy power. And it replaces Templar's Verdict, so it might be worth it. Maybe give some rats a little bit more burst like they need it. They're already like glass cannons, but whatever. Seal of Faith, it fills you with holy light, causing you to gain faith equal to all damage dealt. Faith acts as spell power towards the next healing spell you cast. Holy, while Seal of Faith is active, all damage dealt is increased by 30%, and it's the same thing. For Prot and Rat, it's reduced by 30%. So, is it worth it? I don't know. For Rat, could be, could not be. It's kind of hard to say, to be honest, because regardless of how strong your heals are, you can only get 2 of them off as Rat or Prot. So, who knows? It might be good. They might change it with the stat crunch. The Light Within Beacon of Light can now be placed on up to 2 targets. That is huge. Protection. Your seal also causes your judgment to empower you with additional beneficial effect. All kinds of judgments. There's just a list of judgments, and same thing with Ret. There's a lot of options I'm not going to go over right now. Spiritual Guidance for Disc. Instantly heals a friendly target for 50% of their maximum health, reducing the healing done by 10% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. So, it's basically going to save their life, but make it so you cannot heal if you keep casting it for 10 seconds. So, I can see it being really good, but it's going to be one of those abilities that you really have to know how to use it, or it's gonna screw you over. Same thing with Holy. And Shadow Reapparitions also now grant you 1 Shadow Orb when they deal damage. Meaning, Shadow Priest, you're going to be getting Shadow Orbs like it's nothing. They're going to be candy for you. So, that's good. For you, not for me, because I'm going to die. But, Power of the Void. For Disc, your Void Shift spell has no cooldowns, but you can only cast on allies with less health than you. And, no longer heals. So, if it no longer heals, I don't know if that's going to be good or not. Your Void Shift spell has no cooldowns, but can... Same thing, actually. I just read it again. But, Shadow consumes up to 3 Shadow Orbs to deal up to 750 shadow damage every 3 seconds for 60 seconds. That's gonna be... I could see that being pretty good, to be honest. That's a lot of constant damage. A lot. And then Divine Clarity. Shields a target with a protective ward, absorbing 250 damage, replaces Greater Heal. Heals allies within 10 yards of the target for 5,000, split such that more injured targets will receive a larger portion of the healing, replaces Greater Heal. And your direct shadow damage spells now deal 40% additional damage to targets not affected by your shadow damage spells, your shadow damage dots. Let's see, Rogues, Death from Above. Finishing move that consumes combo points on the targets will empower your weapons with shadow energy to perform a devastating 2-part attack. You whirl around, dealing shadow damage to all enemies within 8 yards, then leap into the air and slice into your target on the way back down, dealing shadow damage. 2,000 area damage and 5,000 target damage for a 5-point combo. Shadow Reflection. This is going to give Rogues probably the strongest burst in the game. Summon a shadow of yourself on the target that will watch you memorize your ability usage for the next 8 seconds. After this time, it will mimic the mesmerized abilities on its target over the next 8 seconds. So it's basically you pop all your cooldowns and then pop that and do all your cooldowns, obviously. And then as soon as your cooldowns fade, or even while you're still using them, your shadow will do the same exact thing. So it's like 16 plus seconds of burst, which is absolutely stupid, but we'll see how it goes. And Master the Basics. When you critically strike with an auto attack, you gain an additional combo point on your target. So be ready to start getting spam eviscerated, because that's what's going to happen. Shaman. This is pretty cool because empowers your current fire totem, the power of lava, calling it to spew globs of lava at random enemies within 40 yards for 1 second every 15 seconds. That's huge AoE damage. Same thing for enhancement, and your chain heal bounces to all targets and does a bunch of other cool stuff that it's too long to read. Storm Elemental Totem. This, it's so OP that as soon as a shaman uses it, it's probably gonna die, because everyone's gonna have swap macros, and you're gonna have to protect this totem with some kind of godly power because of how stupid it is. But summons an air totem with 6,000 health at the feet of the caster, calling forth a greater storm elemental to hurl gusts of wind at caster's enemies. Each gust of wind does damage to the enemy and then heals all allies within 15 yards for 100% of the damage dealt. Splits evenly and lasts until cancelled. That's stupid. OP. But elemental, when your lightning shield is active, lightning will strike a random enemy within 40 yards that you're in combat with every 3 seconds. So you basically just gain insane passive AoE damage for no reason, which, well, it's obvious for a reason, but it's pretty stupid OP. I like it. I like it a lot. Same thing with enhancement. And Resto, summon a water totem with 5 health at the feet of the caster for 1 minute that collects 25% of all healing. And grants it to the shaman as spell power towards their next healing wave, healing surge, greater healing, chain heal, or riptide. So basically you drop that totem and collects 25% of all healing, overhealing. If you're in an RBG, it's going to be several million, and counts as spell power towards your next whatever ability. And if you use that on Riptide, that's going to be insane dot heals. Locks I have not read about at all yet, but I'm about to, so here we go. Affliction, Soulburn, Haunt. Grants the Soulburn empowerment to your Haunt spell. Your Haunt spell also grants you 15% increased dot damage for 30 seconds. Okay, Affliction locks are going to get single target buff, which is going to be pretty strong actually. 15% of your dots is huge. Touch of Chaos no longer costs Demonic Fury, instead generates the 40 Demonic Fury, but Metamorphosis provides 30% less increased damage. I don't know. I have nothing to say about that because I absolutely hate demo to begin with. And Destruction, Incinerate and Conflagrate deals 75% less damage, but generate 400% more burning embers. So basically what that's saying is all your Incinerates and Conflags aren't really going to do jack squat, but you're going to be able to basically infinitely cast Chaos Bolts. Exciting. Cataclysm. Conjures a Cataclysm at the target location, dealing 1,000 Shadow Flame damage to all enemies within 8 yards. For Affliction Demonology, it applies Corruption, which is huge, and Destruction, it applies Immolate, which also grants you more embers, so huge. And Servitude, 1 minute cooldown. You are now able to maintain your control over even greater demons indefinitely, allowing you to summon Doom Guards and Infernals as permanent pets. Yep, that's pretty insane as well. Those are 3 pretty strong talents for each. It's going to be really hard to pick between them. And Warriors, a lot of people on the forums are complaining about how the Warrior isn't as good as all the other classes, but Blade Barrier, when you Whirlwind or Thunderclap, everyone uses Thunderclap on cooldown because it applies deep wounds. Blades spin around you for 30 seconds. These blades do 1 damage every 1 second to all enemies within 8 yards. So if you're in an RBG or 5s and DK has everyone training them to the ground, and you're right on top of the DK training everyone else to the ground, these blades are going to do a potential of like 5 to 10,000 damage every second for 30 seconds. And this is passive, so this is a constant uptime. I see that being absolutely insanely good. I don't know what people were complaining about, but that's a lot of damage. Throw a Whirling Axe at a target location that inflicts 3,000 damage to enemies within 8 yards every 1 second and lasts 15 seconds. So that's doing 40,000 damage, 45,000 damage to all enemies within 8 yards over time. That's pretty huge too, especially if they're stuck in like a vortex or something. This, you basically slit your wrists to gain 30 rage, and Protection, you gain a new stance. Increases all damage dealt by 20%. Also causes your shield slam to consume shield barrier as additional damage and have increased chance to critically strike equal to your block chance, which that's actually pretty dang good. for prop warriors. But that pretty much sums up the level 100 talents. Thanks for watching, and let me know your opinions on all the comments, on all the talents in the comments. I'm looking forward to hear what you guys have to think about the level 100 talents. Take care.